Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of the Minecraft Disney World Q&A. It's the series in which you guys give me questions and I give you answers, and some of them are true and some of them are just my opinion. And sometimes you give me answers to questions I have. Last week we did a little look at Epcot and what I thought we could do to make it better. This week we're going to go back to questions and answers. However, we will return to that series. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I do eventually want to do every pavilion there. Anyway, we've got a bunch of questions this week, so I'm going to jump right in. And we're going to kick off the week with Jordan Mann, who asks, what do you think is more interesting, fireworks shows or parades? And which came first in Disney World? So, to answer your first question, I'm more of a fan of the fireworks shows. In my opinion, the best show in general at Disney World is Illumination's Reflection of Earth. Better than Fantasmic. By the way, we're at the Grand Floridian, wonderful hotel. Maybe one day I'll be rich enough to stay there, but until then, I will only visit. We're going to take the monorail to somewhere. Let's hop in here. So yeah, I think Illuminations... Let me in, let me in, let me in, please. Let me in? No? Can I get on? How about I hop on one? There we go. I think it's better. It boils down to opinion. I know people. One of my friends is a big fan of the Main Street Electrical Parade. Thinks it's the best thing that Disney's ever offered in terms of their shows. So it really boils down to what you like. Personally, I prefer Illuminations. Now, to answer your question, it's sort of tricky. So which came first in Disney World? The answer is both. They both came first. By that point, parades and fireworks were established in Disneyland for quite some time, so they had both in Disney World. I guess to really get specific with your answer, I guess parades, because I assume the parade happened during the day sooner on opening day than the fireworks, which would require it being nighttime. So, I mean, that's sort of probably ducking around the question you're really asking. Are you asking in the history of Disney which came first? That one's tougher for me. I had a hard time pinpointing that. I know the fireworks shows came a little after Disneyland's premiere because they were the result of Disney trying like this teen dating night, and it became really popular and they kept it around. So my guess would be parades, but I don't have a solid answer in that case. As far as Disney World goes, though, they both sort of, day one, they had both. Great question. Let's move on to Jedi Davey 0804, who says, hey Rob, my question is about the future of Disney's Animal Kingdom. More specifically, rides that focus on mythical creatures such as Expedition Everest. Are we pulling in at the Magic Kingdom? Oh yeah. I know Disney announced to make a land based on the Avatar film, but do you think... Uh-oh, I'm going backwards. Oh no, oh no. Ah! Okay, that's been all fixed. Do you think Disney will ever try to make more rides or shows based off mythical creatures like dragons or Bigfoot? Ever? Do I think they ever will? Probably, yeah, I think so. I don't think Avatar is the end of the Animal Kingdom's development, so to speak. Do I think they'll do it anytime soon? Not really. I think Avatar Land is going to be a pretty significant addition to the Animal Kingdom, so I don't think you'll see anything significant added. I'd say like within the next decade, really. That's my guess. You never know with Disney. I think just the existence of Avatar Land itself is a little bizarre, just considering how much Disney's business method so far has been to acquire property and then focus on it. So who knows? I would like to see some more. I mean, what he's talking about is that the Animal Kingdom originally, when it opened, was supposed to have a focus on mythical creatures as well as real creatures. However, that was going to be added later, and it was sort of pushed back for multiple reasons. And you sort of see a little bit of it with Bigfoot and Expedition Everest, and now you're seeing a lot of it with Avatar Land. Definitely not real creatures, but there was going to be a Dueling Dragons roller coaster that eventually was passed on. And I believe the designer of it ended up working at Universal Studios, and you saw dueling coasters pop up there. So the idea had weight. So Yeah, that I think we'll see at some point, just maybe later down the line. Good question. Moving on, we've got, I always go here to Tomorrowland. I love Tomorrowland. It's my favorite. We have Jakey Jurin, who asks, hey Rob, do you think if Walt could see Epcot today, he would be disappointed because it's not a city or because they built it as a theme park? Do you think he would be disappointed with the company for building Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, and the other parks around the world? What are your thoughts? So with Walt, all you could do is guess, right? He's been gone for so long, and it's hard to tell because, you know, you could maybe make those sort of educated guesses back then because you had the context of a history of a period that he lived through. So, you know, you could sort of put that together. But now it's like you never had Walt experience anything like the 80s or the 90s. So how do we know what he would say? That said, I don't think he would be disappointed in Hollywood Studios. I don't think he would be disappointed really in any of the stuff that's there. You have to realize he wasn't against making more theme parks. He wasn't against that sort of stuff. He just wasn't interested in it. You know, for him, that was a business that they perfected, and then Disney, the company, could take over and he could move on to something new. You know, after all, after Disneyland opened, you didn't see them stop making Disney movies or stop making cartoons. You know, they were still made. He just wasn't as involved with them because he was involving himself in something bigger. So while he was moving on to Epcot and the concept of an actual real functional city, I don't think that meant he never wanted to see other theme parks exist. I think it just meant he wasn't interested in being a part of that. So I don't think he would be disappointed. I think he'd be a little bummed that Epcot ended up as a theme park and not a city, but I think he seemed like a super smart guy. So I think if he looked at the ecosystem today of, not the physical ecosystem of the world, but just sort of where technology is and how corporations work today, I think even he would understand that Epcot as a city just wouldn't stand a chance in the real world today. It just wouldn't work. I love the idea Walt had, and I think maybe back when he was alive it might have been possible, but today it just wouldn't happen. You wouldn't see companies like Microsoft and Apple giving up trade secrets to preview their new technologies for free. We live in a world today where that sort of promotion through a city wouldn't really be as useful as ads on the internet where they're seen by millions and millions across the world, right? It's that sort of thing that you need to keep in mind. All right, let's go on some Space Mountain because it's my favorite right now. All right. Moving on, we've got Fragget for the Win, who asks, great episode, I love Epcot, it's my favorite park. I love just going to Disney, maybe riding a few rides, but I like to take in the great atmosphere Disney portrays in its parks. How do you feel about Disney's atmosphere? Thank you and aloha. Well, aloha. What do I think about the atmosphere? Fantastic. And I agree with you 100%. In fact, the last time I went down, I went with a big group of friends, and it was fun. We were there for a whole week, but I took, we all sort of split up a little bit towards the end just so we could have our own time. And I did that as well. I spent half a day on my own, and I went to Epcot, and I spent half a day in Epcot, and I did not go on any rides. The atmosphere was so great. I walked around World Showcase. I walked around Future World. Had no desire to go. I had gone on the rides I wanted to go on, so I really just sat back and enjoyed the atmosphere. This is going pretty slowly. I think something's up here. I don't know what's up. We'll see if it speeds up. So yeah, I think the atmosphere is fantastic. It's a shame because, vacations are not cheap. And so you can't really go for a super long time for the most part. A lot of people can't. So when you go, you want to get your money's worth. And so you're rushing around and doing a bunch of things. And it's a shame because I think a lot of people would enjoy Disney for other reasons if they had just stopped and relaxed. And, it's my dream to save up enough and put together that vacation time and just go for 2 weeks or a week and a half. Maybe 2 weeks is too much. And not so I can go on Space Mountain 500 times in 2 weeks, but so I could go on it the one time I normally would, and then, spend a day just, at the hotel exploring resorts. How often do you do that? I used to do that when I was younger. I would with my parents and my family, we would like just go to a resort. We'd go eat at the Grand Floridian, even though we weren't staying there. And we'd just get to see how great they were detailed. And I think that's something anybody who goes to Disney should try. Just take a half a day and spend it exploring without, rushing to get online for a ride. And I think you'll have an equally enjoyable time. Next up, we've got OKC Max K. He says, great video, or she says, great video, Rob. Question for the next video. Are you going to D23, Comic-Con, etc.? And do you think Disney is going to make something out of the abandoned Journey into Imagination second floor? And what would you do with it? So let's tackle those one at a time. Am I going to D23? Not on the books. Comic-Con, San Diego? Not on the books. I am going to PAX East. I'm super excited. I go every single year. Wouldn't miss it for the world. I usually try to go to New York Comic-Con at least one day a year, just because that's also enjoyable. I would love to go to D23 at some point. I would love to go to San Diego Comic-Con. It's just a matter of I can only afford to go to so many conventions a year, and for me, PAX East is like a can't miss. Like that is written into my plans every single year. I do not back out of that. I would like to go to Minecon as well at some point. So I think the goal is I'll go to PAX East every year and then try and get a second convention in there. Maybe I won't do New York Comic Con next year. Maybe I'll do San Diego Comic Con or D23 or something like that. I don't know. To go on to your other question, do I think they'll do something out of the abandoned Journey into Imagination? I certainly hope so. I don't know for sure. Part of me would say right off the bat, of course, they wouldn't let that valuable real estate go to waste. However, look at the Wonders of Life Pavilion. They use it for some corporate events or some special events every once in a while, but they largely haven't done anything with it. So you never know. Maybe it would sit there for a while until they can think of something to do with it. I hope they do something with it. But yeah, no way to tell. Disney, I would have honestly come up and said no way, but then I just think of the Wonders of Life Pavilion and think, well, maybe they would leave it. And what would I do with it? Well, for that, you're just gonna have to wait until the next Epcot episode that I cover the Imagination Pavilion. I'll admittedly probably save that for last because it's the pavilion I have the least experience with, but that's when I'll talk about that. Next up, we have another one from Jordan Man. Jordan Man asks, what is your favorite Disney song? It could be from the parks or in a movie. So in a movie, I'd say, you know what? As much as I love Aladdin and the animation Renaissance films like Little Mermaid and things like that, Beauty and the Beast, my favorite Disney music from movies are from the classic ones, from A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes, and basically anything with Jiminy Cricket. Of course I'm drawing blanks on names now, but whenever they use classic Disney movie music in parade shows and stuff, it hits me. I love it. I love that music. It gets me nostalgic, and I guess I associate it more with Walt Disney than the newer stuff, as much as I love the newer stuff. And as for park music, that's a great question. I have all this ambient music that I use in my videos, and I do occasionally listen to it. I like the Horizons music. It's cheesy music, but it reminds me of a ride I missed that I loved very much. So, and it reminds me of old family trips to Disney World, which were it's a great for not just listening to, but bringing back good memories. So I'd say my favorite's that. Also, I love the Spaceship Earth score. Ooh, someone's just sitting here. It's the dolls come to life. Oh no. And then finally this week, Laugh-A-Lot 54 asks, what would you want a future Disney movie to be based on? For example, would you want a ride to be turned into a movie, or maybe based off a fairy tale like The Princess and the Pea? Although there's already a musical based on that called Once Upon a Mattress. Good question, Laugh-A-Lot. I like the idea of taking a very generalized attraction and making a movie series out of it. Pirates of the Caribbean, fantastic. I actually just watched that movie recently, and I love it. I forgot how good the first one was. And it really didn't take a lot from the attraction. It took a couple of lines for fan service and, you know, a song lyric here and there. But besides that, it was pretty original. So, you know, the fanboy in me wants to say Horizons. A Horizons movie would be great. A story about this family that lives under the ocean and in space and in the desert. But that wouldn't really work too well because the attraction doesn't exist anymore, and there's no way they're going to bring it back. So I guess my answer, based on any attraction that is in Disney now, I mean, I don't know if a Space Mountain's in the works. I know Tomorrowland's in the works. I've heard rumors of a Space Mountain movie also being in the works. So that would be interesting. I would love to just see the Haunted Mansion as a movie again. And I say again because we're going to ignore that Eddie Murphy travesty. That was an awful movie. That was essentially Disney saw Pirates do well and thought, oh, Pirates did well, let's do the Haunted Mansion. So they made like a comedy with Eddie Murphy and it bombed. And I know as of like a year or two ago, there was a lot of talk about Guillermo del Toro, the director who just did Pacific Rim and who did a lot of great films, Pan's Labyrinth, doing the Haunted Mansion, but I haven't heard a lot of updates on that, so I don't know if it's still in the works. So I hope that ends up getting made because I think that could be really great. I think he would be a great director to capture the spirit of the Haunted Mansion, which is a lot what Pirates did, right? Pirates, even though there wasn't a lot directly taken from the ride for the movie, it did capture the spirit, which is, yeah, they're pirates, but it's fun. It's fun pirates, you know, it's lighthearted. They're still pirates and ransacking the town and everything, but you're not like scared. And I think that the Haunted Mansion sort of spirit is this like equal mix of creepy and terrifying with fun, you know, grim, grinning ghosts, right? And I think Guillermo del Toro, you know, looking at something like Pacific Rim and then Pan's Labyrinth, I think he's got that talent and ability to do creepy really well and to do something lighthearted. So that's my official answer. I want to thank everybody for asking questions this week. If you have a question you want me to answer, just leave it in the comments. That's the best way to get it in there. I'm thinking back now, and I know some people email me, and I apologize. I will have to go back and double check. This is exactly the reason why the comments is the best way to go about it, because I easily forget about emails and tweets and things like that, just because I don't have it there in the list like a comment. So if you leave it as a comment, I'll try to get to all of them. If I don't get to them in the videos, I try to at least answer them in the comments themselves. The only time I might not is if it's something that's been repeated multiple times. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Whatever you're doing, make the most of it, because it makes it so much better. Trust me, try it. Try it 1 week. Make the most of your week, and then 1 week, don't make the most of your week. You'll see the difference. And I hope to see you all here next week for the next episode of the Minecraft Disney World Q&A. Bye, everybody.